in order to scale, I'm actually going to have to give the reins up on certain things. There's certain things that I absolutely love about business, and I absolutely love like I said, the conceptual thinking and building strategies, and I love designing, but if it comes to it, I'd rather deal with my clients face to face and help them build a strategy.
There you go.
And find someone who would prefer, like we were saying before, there's different types of designers. There is logo designers out there who just want to be a logo designer. So these are the type of people that I'm working with. So I can build a strategy with a client, but actually outsource, go to a logo designer and say, this is the strategy I've got in place. I need the logo to look like this, and be able to hand that work off to somebody else.
Yes, guys. Welcome to another episode of Let Inspiration Take Over podcast. Today, I have another very special guest on the podcast who has been patient enough to grace us with her presence. Her name is Hannah. She's a logo designer, but I'm sure she'll be able to introduce and tell us, because I know she's a little bit more than that. But just to give a bit of background, how we met, or how I met you actually, was at an event, networking event called the Black Economy Summit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I heard you speak about your craft. I was very intrigued. It just so happens that I'm in the business of sharing people's stories, especially entrepreneurs, creatives, and that sort of thing. So it was really just God's grace having stumbled and having met you, and you having agreed to come here today. So I look forward to, going through the journey, discussing with yourself, and so you can take us through. But before we do that, if you can perhaps just give us a brief introduction of yourself in your own words.
Yeah, so I'm Hannah. Born and bred in Leeds.
There you go.
Spent some time in Manchester studying.
Brilliant.
I don't know, I think it's quite hard to classify what I am, like you said.
Right. I was going to say logo designer. I was like, nah, this woman is a lot more than just a logo designer,
I guess I'd call myself like an all-round creative, really.
There you
Although
go.
I'd probably say I specialise in logo design and branding.
Brilliant. Yes.
Design. But I think it can be quite hard for a lot of creatives to kind of pinpoint where they are, because I think you just end up dabbling in so much. And I think even though you can specialise in certain things, there's a lot of things you end up dabbling in to kind of bring you to that point and kind of like help you specialise in what it is. But I think if it was in a couple of words, I'd probably say kind of like brand identity creator, brand specialist.
Brilliant. I mean, briefly touching on what you studied formally. So what was it? I know you went to Salford University.
Yeah, that's right.
Briefly, what was, how is it defined, what you studied there?
So I've always from a GCSE level, I always studied graphic design. Absolutely loved graphic design, and I also got a national diploma in graphic design also at college level. Even though I absolutely loved it, I don't know, there was something missing. I needed kind of like the conceptual thinking side of it, which is what I was kind of missing when it came to graphic design. I think with graphic design, sometimes it can be a lot of, I need this leaflet doing, this is what it needs to include. Right. These are the colours I want to use. Whereas I kind of, which as much as I enjoy that sort of design, there was a lot more, I liked the thinking behind of it. So when I went to Salford University, I went on to do advertising design, which
Did you? Right, okay.
Included like the graphic design side of things, but also included kind of like the conceptual thinking, and kind of got you thinking a bit more about evoking emotion, kind of developing emotion through the designs that you're creating, how you can kind of like tap into people's emotions, which is a lot of the time what advertising is really. So it's kind of like more the thinking behind of it, and not just, I'm going to use this colour because it's pretty, but also I'm going to use this colour because
it looks
how
cool.
It's going to make people think. I love that side
and
of
feel,
things.
right?
Yeah,
I was going to say, it's interesting that you say it had an advertising element. I did marketing. So I didn't do marketing. I did business and management, and there was a marketing element of it. Yeah. So they were teaching us those things about the importance of branding, personal branding, the emotions behind, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I wonder how that differs from advertising. Like what were some of the core elements elements, as it pertains to advertising?
I think about advertising and marketing, I think they go hand in hand,
right?
especially with kind of like branding as well. But I think branding is more kind of the... Marketing is kind of selling the idea, and advertising is selling a specific idea.
Okay.
Whereas branding is kind of like the building of the idea, is the way that I would put it.
Yeah.
I think it's really easy for a lot of business owners to start a business and believe that they have a brand, but I think
most don't know it until later.
Behind it, yeah.
Right.
Actually, and to be fair, I was falling into like my business as much as... I think I started off doing kind of like logos. I knew I liked creating logos. I knew I liked create graphic design. But I kind of naturally slipped into branding. So even for myself, my own business, I didn't necessarily start with a brand in mind. I started just because I liked creating
logos. That's where we all start from, isn't it?
And
from the passion.
Then after you think to yourself, oh, actually, like if I don't take a lead on this brand, then people have actually already decided what my brand is.
Yes.
Already. So even for myself, I kind of like as a small business worked my way backwards, kind of started this business and then thought to myself, oh wow, I need to actually kind of put some seriousness on branding.
There you go.
This is what it is that I want to kind of like help people with and specialise in, really.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of which, I remember there's a lady that spoke at the summit. I've forgotten what her name is, but she has a beauty brand. Is it
is it Nyla's Naturals?
Yes, I should have remembered this, but it's just popped into my head as you've been speaking. And when she was breaking down her business, the things that really go behind having a brand, especially one that deals in beauty and people have to use, and how you have to do the quality control. It was a whole new experience, like a whole new world for me. I was like, I just thought you just have to make some stuff in the kitchen, put it in the bottle, and just sell it.
And it goes so much further, doesn't it?
Right,
it's like one of those things, all this is stuff that goes within to kind of like your brand and your brand identity as well. Like it's not just kind of like the packaging and stuff that you see in. Like I think she actually mentioned, didn't she, when she was speaking, that there's times now she's built up that much of a brand reputation with her clients that she will, if anyone says anything bad about her brand online, her own followers will come for them.
There you go.
She's built up like such a reputation for herself that like there's people who are gonna back her because she's put that much into a brand and made people like relates to people that deeply, that kind of like the like diehard fans for like what it is that she
absolutely
offers.
I was so interested in hearing her journey and the things that she sort of learned of how you have to keep like track of product and that sort of thing, market labeling. All these things are things that I feel like most people don't think about. When you're starting a business, you're just thinking, fam, I just want to do this business. I want it to look good. Like if it's a logo, again, until I heard you speak, I just thought I just needed to look this way. I needed to look cool and I needed to have impact. Little did I know that sometimes, you might have something that's actually sending the wrong message. So it might look great, but you're actually sending the opposite message of what you're trying to do.
This is the thing. And I think when it comes to kind of like your logo and your design, like from seeing it, you kind of, you picture something already just from seeing that person's thing. So I think if you have, and this is not going against like, I mean, when I first started, I was creating logos for people for like £30 to £50, like, and I think there's a space for that within certain businesses.
Okay.
But at the same time, you can't expect to invest £50 in a logo or in your brand and then think that you're going to be able to sell high ticket products of £1,000 to £2,000 to people, because it doesn't reflect. Like people can see that, like if you kind of like, there's such a big difference between investing a small amount of money into a logo and actually building a brand strategy and like investing money into your brand. And I think people are not stupid, like they can see instantly what you've put into something. And I think it's really foolish to think, if you're not willing to invest a certain amount of money, time, effort into your business and your brand, to think other people are going to do that. Like, if you're like
they're not going to see it, right? It's like, I would say it's the feel of the brand as well. If you're cheap, something will feel cheap. If you've put in the effort, you've paid the money, the premiumness of the product, you tend to feel it. And as I've gotten older, when I was younger, I would always go for the cheapest thing, right? Because I thought, this is the cheapest thing, I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
Now, as I'm older, I actually go for premium.
Yeah.
So you find like, for example, today I went to the store, I was like, oh my God, I only want to spend this much. And then I found the things that I needed. It was more than I needed to spend. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get the things that I need to get. Do you get what I mean? Because I'm like, if I get anything else, it cheapens what I'm trying to do.
And it's all, this is why like the strategy behind building a brand is so important, because when you're building that strategy, kind of pinpointing, how do I want people to feel, like who are the people that I'm targeting, like there's nothing wrong with targeting people at a lower price point, if that's what your business is there to do. But I think if your brand and your logo needs to match up with that. It's all got to kind of like correlate, really.
You can't be presenting M&S and you want to sell it to, don't know,
it's like it's got to match up, sort of thing. I think it's one of the
Netto.
Things. Exactly. Like it's all got to. You've just got to know who your target is, and like once you know who your target is, then you can target them. And like I said, there's no shame. Like at the end of the day, and I think even brands, even cheaper brands such as kind of like you were saying, like supermarkets, M&S obviously, and Waitrose and stuff, they probably have a higher. They're aiming for kind of like a higher price point when it comes. People expect to pay a bit more when they go to their shops. But at the same time, I think even shops like Aldi and Lidl, like, do not sleep on those brands. Like, they may be like targeted towards like cheaper price points. But if you look at their branding and marketing, like they will still spend a lot of money within their branding and marketing. They just know who that is that they're targeting. It's just targeted to someone. They're just investing the money and targeting it to someone different. But I think some of their, I don't know if you follow like any of their social media channels, the people who look after their marketing and kind of like their social media channels, they are so on the ball.
Right. You're trying to convince someone like, why doesn't my stuff look like this? What is going on? Because they have teams of people behind it, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's just even the way, it's not even just the look of stuff, it's the way that they talk to people. Like they speak to people on a level, and just the way that they kind of connect with people, that all kind of goes into their brand and kind of like the people that it is that they're trying to target, really.
No, that's great. Like, all this is new information to me, but very, very important information, because it really does help with the approach as well. Even I think it applies to any business, because when you know who you are, if you're trying to figure out what your logo is going to be or your brand is going to be, you need to know your target market. If you don't even know your target market, how do you know what you're going to be conveying to people? Because you don't even know who you're conveying it to, isn't it? Because, for example, if you're targeting children, then your logo or your brand will be more kind of, the colors will be different, everything else will be more targeted towards children. If you're targeting adults, again, that will be different. If you don't know, then how do you present correctly? For example, I think I saw somebody on Dragon's Den where they were stating like they aimed to target children, but I think their brand looked more adult, and so the Dragons were like, but that's, your branding doesn't correlate to who you say your target market is. So is this something that you've looked into? Do you get what I mean? So but
it's so true. Like, you have to know, and I think it makes it a lot easier. Like, I think a lot of businesses and brands, when they're first starting out, it's easy to try and target everyone, because instantly you think to yourself, well, the main aim of me running this business or running this brand is to make money, so I want to make sure that I'm targeting everyone. But by doing that, I think branding's such a personal thing. Like, you build a brand to connect with people on an emotional level, and if you're trying to target everyone, you're not connecting with anybody. So you're actually kind of going against what it is that you're trying to achieve. You're trying to connect with everybody, but actually you're connecting with nobody.
No one, because you're missing it.
Nobody actually feels like you like relating to them, really. So it makes sense to kind of just hone in and think to yourself, right, okay. And I think it's one of those things as well, like I've spoken about it like on my lives before as well, just because you are targeting a specific group, that doesn't mean like if somebody outside of that group approaches you that you can't work with them. You're not going to turn them away and say, well, you can't buy my products because you're not part of my target audience. But I think it just shows people,
what you're doing,
what it is that you're doing and who it is that you're targeting. I think people appreciate that in a time where everything is kind of like, we absorb so much information. branding is just such a personal thing. Like you buy from brands who you feel like appeal to you. They
Absolutely.
have the same values as you.
Same
you
ethos.
you feel like they know where it is that you're coming from. So I think it's just such an important thing to kind of actually feel like people connect with you and not try to target too many people, because like as I mentioned, like if you're trying to target everybody, you're not going to hit with anybody,
right?
fall flat.
I was gonna say, and that brand connection point is so important, because there've been a couple of them that have presented certain messages where I've sort of disconnected from the brand, even though I used to love it. I don't know if I want to name anybody, because now I'm thinking, later on I may need to work with them. But I was saying there was one particular one, you probably know of them, where like racially they were presenting the wrong messages, right? So people were talking about, it's a very big popular brand.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, fam, you know what? No, I'm not going to go and spend a whole lot of money if this is what you believe in. So is this your ethos? Do you get what I mean? So you need to get that right. Or do you have the right people on your board of directors to be able to tell you? Because really, I felt connected to that brand because of the people, influencers that I've seen, you know, wear it, celebrities and things like that. But the minute I saw that, I felt disconnected. Right?
Yeah.
And
the thing is, we're in a time and age now where you can't hide anything. You can try and portray yourself a certain way, but
eventually it comes out.
It's going to come out, and like the truth is gonna present itself. And I think even it's like without intention as well.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, because like I'd say maybe 75% of like my clients come from like minority backgrounds. They come from black backgrounds, not because I've tried, but I guess people see the way that I present myself. They see the brands that I'm working with, and they see that I have a passion for that, because
there you go.
That's where I've come from. Like I feel like I'm West Yorkshire through and through at the end of the day.
Whether it's in your voice, it's in your accent.
It's in my accent. Like it's just, I'm born and bred, but I'm still very unapologetically black. And I think that probably resonates with a lot of businesses.
Absolutely.
Like that are coming up from different backgrounds, and I think,
you're Yorkshire just as much as you are black. And to be honest with you, I think that is something that's really hitting at the moment. Like the big brands, obviously they're wanting to be seen as more diverse. It's been said that the Yorkshire accent is actually one of the more friendlier accents.
Well, they use it for like call centers and stuff,
right? Have you heard it in adverts and everything else? So the minute people can hear, especially in the UK, the minute people can hear you, even other places actually, India, and because they love England, right? So the minute they hear your Yorkshire accent, it's like it's distinctive, right? It's like an identity.
And I think for a while I tried to kind of hide that and would stay.
Did you? Why would you do that?
Well, not necessarily like hide it, but like I've never been one of those people to like go on lives or really present myself. Like, I think maybe in the past year it's only been that I've started to kind of put my face across my social media channels.
Absolutely.
Before that, it was just like presenting work, and you kind of, I guess it's
but
just
don't know you.
That fear though, isn't it? Of like, I think when you've got work, it's kind of like it's a part of you and you're presenting it, but you can kind of like hide behind it. Whereas once you put yourself out there and like you hear yourself back and you're like, oh my God, is that how
why did I do that?
Like?
Yeah, I know, right? Imagine me. I've done like, this is like, is it 19 or 20, right? And I've done loads more of these. I hear my voice. I'm like, I don't like my own voice, but then this is what I'm going to be doing. And I think eventually it gets easier. You have to accept it as part of what you do. It's just a part of the ecosystem now,
and you
right?
find
you have
that's
to present yourself.
You find that actually that's what the things that you're kind of picking apart from yourself, you actually find that those are the things that you get compliments on, and that's actually what people are actually drawn to. Yes.
You know,
it's really weird that
go on, sorry.
That's pretty much, but it's quite weird that kind of like the bits that you're picking apart from people, actually when people speak to you, they're like, oh, it's so nice to hear like a northern accent, or like to see like a person of colour or a black female like in your field. So the things that you were kind of like shying away from, those are actually the bits that
identity.
People are drawn to and can kind of relate to.
And that's what makes you unique. I mean, if I can think of the people that I'm normally drawn to, it's their individuality.
Yeah.
Right? I remember when I was thinking, like, drawing up this podcast, like writing and think, how am I going to do it? How can I present? Like, what can I do? And I realized, the best thing I could do is just be myself.
It's so
because
true.
Right, if I try and be anything but myself, eventually it comes across.
Yeah.
Right? People can tell you're faking it. It's just long and it just feels off, right?
Yeah.
But then what you're selling is your identity. What people will be drawn to is you. It's the thing that you mentioned earlier, is you're not trying to get everyone, but it's almost as if you're just trying to get your tribe. What then happens is that from that tribe, that's when you grow to everyone. Everyone picks up interest later, but the main focus needs to be your tribe, and your tribe will usually be drawn to you, the person.
And it's exactly those little things. Like when I look back and I'm kind of like reviewing things with business at the moment, and as I'm coming to Christmas and wanting to reach out to people, and before I go on maternity, kind of like just saying to kind of like sending out emails to people and saying like, I'm going to be off for a bit.
Okay.
And actually the people who were responding and kind of like coming back, you realise actually the people who bring me my business, they're long-term clients.
Absolutely.
Like I'm receiving business and people are coming back from some of the first clients that I did logos for like £50 are people that I'm doing projects for now,
thousands.
like 6-7 years down, 5-6 years down the line, and willing to obviously follow me on that journey as well, because they kind of, it is one of those things, they see that you're genuine and they see that you are kind of offering the value and the kind of
quality of work.
Their brand is growing with you and they're happy to come on that journey with you. And I think, it's like you said, it's so important to show your genuine self, because you will find that tribe of people. And even if there is only 5 or 6 clients that keep coming back to you, you can guarantee down the line, they may refer you to certain people, or they'll keep coming back as their business grows. And I think it's so easy to see thousands of followers or people with so many followers across social media and think I'm doing something wrong. But actually, those people with millions of followers, when they're releasing products, you're finding nobody's buying the product.
Right.
They're struggling to sell what it is that they need to sell. Whereas actually, like, you're best off just having an actual true connection with 5 or 6 people that are going to grow with you and actually refer you to other people and help you to build your business, really.
Do you know what? You made me feel so much better. I'm like, oh my God. It's like conversion is not the same, right?
No,
numbers
really
don't equal to conversion, but people are all about numbers. They'll be like, oh, how come we're not seeing that many likes on your posts and things like that? Yet in my back channel, I've got traction. I've got people hitting me up, wanting to come onto the podcast. I've got people telling me like, brother, you're doing great work. Keep doing what you're doing. And sometimes it can feel disheartening, the numbers thing, because I'm like, how am I not connecting? What's going on? But then it's like, you see that the people that really love the work, they'll come to the videos or they'll contact me directly. And that was one of my key goals when I started, to have genuine connections, even if it's like one person at a time. So the main focus is the quality and the content. I knew that if the quality is there, it helps me to bring in people such as yourself that are on the board, that you're passionate about your craft, and then that adds again to the quality. And as we go on, perhaps it will eventually hit. But numbers in inception hasn't been my focus to be like gimmicky in order to like go viral. I'm like,
you've got to stay away from the vanity metrics. It's so easy to like get lost in it. And it's like, from like what you were saying, it's so I think what we see online can be really disheartening. Like I'm exactly the same. Like I'm probably at a point in my social media life where I've had to take a step back and focus on other things, because it can be really hard, because you're thinking to yourself, well, I've got these followers, but I'm only getting this amount of likes on posts. But actually, me taking a step back and not posting on social media for the past couple of months, I've probably done more work for clients than I have done, when I'm constantly posting to social media. So just because don't ever think like you're doing something wrong. Like I think they call it vanity metrics, because that's all it is. It is just there to kind of be like, oh well, I've got this amount of followers, got this amount of likes, but it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't convert actually to your business and the interest that you're getting. And really, that's what your focus should be on when you're kind of trying to determine the success of your business. Even though obviously success can look really different for different people, but I know for myself, and like you've mentioned, like it's to do with the quality and making those connections with people. It's not just about kind of saying this is I went viral, right?
And sometimes it can be a distraction. It can give you a false sense that things are happening when they're not, right? You can have something go viral and it's for the wrong reasons. Do you get what I mean? But are you actually building the way you're supposed to? Are you growing your brand? Are you constantly evolving, which is something that I've been really focused on? Even the most minuscule of things, I always look at, how can I get better? How can I do it? How can I elevate it to the point that, you know, I'm content? I don't know if that point will come, because I'm always thinking there's always something else that can be done better. And that sort of thing. Work on the product, work on the content, and then eventually people come along, they come to see it, to be like, oh wow, we didn't know that this was going on, right? They might see one thing that resonates with them, or one interview that resonates with them. That's the thing that actually draws them into the to the rest of the content. But when they go back, they can actually see the quality all the way through, right? As opposed to if I'm now doing gimmicky things, I need to bring this viral person on and whatever is viral for that moment, but it's kind of like fast food. It's done once you've eaten it, right?
And then you're hungry again in 45 minutes.
Right. Whereas this is nutrition. It's food that keeps on giving. I mean, I really do want to jump into your background before we kind of discuss how you got to the point to where you are now, you know, running your own business. But before we do that, I was going to mention, to say, you know, even True Powell mentioned about the personal branding, right? And the importance of building your own personal brand, and that the majority of influencers or CEOs, you find that their personal accounts are actually bigger than the brand accounts. So in today's climate, I think it's so important. And that's something that I've started working on slowly, to say like, okay, on the more personal side, how can I show a little bit more, you know, of what I'm doing, a little bit more of myself, as opposed to when I initially started with the podcast, it was, I've done an episode, and what I was posting on the podcast page is the same as I was posting on my personal page. So there's no sense of like individuality. There's no sense that I'm putting something out, you know. So that's something that I've started working on as well.
Because it is really hard, because I think with personal branding as well, it seems like it's a new thing. And I think a lot of kind of like brands are like, oh, so which one do I put focus on? But I think we're now at a time where they just go hand in hand.
Yes.
I think we spoke at the Black Owned Economy. It was, how many followers does Richard Branson have? And then you look at his brands combined, and it's like he's got quadruple the amount.
Way more than the brands.
So there is like really, there's got to be focus on both sides really. And I think it's being authentic, but also just being aware that anything you put out personally is going to affect your business.
What branding. You do, exactly. And it's important that people get a little bit of insight in yourself, because I think that's the world we live in now. We want to know more about the people.
People are nosy. We're fast.
Like. Oh, very nosy. Oh, trust.
I'm exactly the same. Like, I think like, you kind of see someone on TV, or you like see a brand, and you're like, oh well, I want to dig. Like you get lost in a rabbit hole trying to find out about.
Where did you get the money from? Right? I was gonna say, it's like, that's why I do this, the podcast as well, because I'm just nosy, right? So this gives people the opportunity to kind of get to discover your personal side, how you got there, and that sort of thing. I know there are other podcasts that go more into the intricate business side and the numbers, but I'm more like the emotional side and more like the foundational side and that sort of thing, because it's like there are a lot of people that are curious, but also I find that motivating as well to hear somebody that can speak about it in layman terms. So for example, something that you said earlier that's so pertinent about the importance of you being you and your Yorkshire accent, at the same time you're a black Yorkshire woman running her own business, right? It's his own identity, but then that's something that there's so many other young people, even people similar ages and things like that will hear that message and feel, "Do you know what? From now on, I'm just going to be myself.
Yeah,
I'm going to do what I'd like to do."
Yeah, and you've got to do it because I think it is. It's just, and like you were saying, like obviously the podcast for you is all about. It is the more personal side of things, and I think that's what kind of like drew me as well when I was watching like previous episodes, because everyone's. You can kind of dig, like we're saying, you can be nosy and dig for things, but it's really unusual that people are actually going to show the negative side of things as well.
The truths, the reality of how...
People see the successes of people because that's all they're showing. But what they're not realising is in order to get to that point, they've actually had to fail 3 businesses and 3 brands before they've got there. They've actually become bankrupt before they've got to that point that they're at. And I think that's...
to borrow money, they had to put up their savings.
Exactly.
I was going to say, if there's anything that doing this has taught me is you have to be willing to put up the risk.
Yeah.
Right?
Nothing good will come without fear.
You have to put up the risk. I'll give you an example. Like I was watching a feud between, I don't know if you know Joe Budden.
Yeah.
Right? He's got his podcast, he was building, he had partners. I don't know if you can call them partners. He thought they were employees. There weren't contracts in place. But then I was thinking about it, I was telling my wife, like, Joe put up the risk, you know. He's the guy that when they started, he was the one that was, everything and putting himself out there. He really pushes his personal brand. So I was like, this man
and he never
actually...
holds back, does he?
Do you get what I mean? But there's a lot that he's done even when he started in business. I realized like, fam, this guy has actually put in a lot. So you even getting a little bit from him, that's equity in itself. Being in that chair, being next to him speaking, you allowing it for you to build your own brand, that in itself is something. But the other fellas felt that they needed more. They felt equal. They wanted to be equal, right?
Without putting in the same amount of work.
I don't know if they did or not, but I don't think they did. And I was going to say, they went and did their own thing, started their own podcast. However, now they've put up the risk. Now they've got control. Now they can do whatever they want. And that's what I'm saying. In anything that, you want to do, if you want to see change, the first step is put up the risk. And by put up the risk, I just mean find the money or risk your savings. A lot of people are not willing to do that. Risk what you've got. Yeah,
it's true. It's a huge thing. And I've had to take that jump before, and sometimes you think, oh, well, I could save money if I did this. But actually, it's like I said, like you've got to look at it as an investment. You can't
investment, yes.
Look at it as if you're just making the money and you're not going to make it back. It may take a year to make it back. It may take 5, but you've got to make that investment in order to take that first journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But bring it back then, where it all started. I know you spoke about dad. Well, no, you didn't speak about. I'm speaking from my notes. I know I was reading, and dad was a creative. As well. So that's where it all came from. If you could tell us, not all perhaps, but if you could tell us a little bit about the background, you growing up, and how perhaps that inspired, your journey. To what you are now.
So my dad, I grew up. I mean, for most of my life. I mean, he teaches design now.
Okay.
But for most of my life growing up, my dad was an art director, so worked in advertising. For most of, I think probably up until I went to university, that was kind of like his career. So he's always taken me into kind of the design agencies and sometimes, and to see what he's working on. And he always had his own home office at work. And I think, I mean, it's probably a bit before. It's a bit before my time, to be fair, Quark Express, but that's what we used before. We had Adobe Suite and stuff before Adobe came along. And so I've always kind of had creative stuff in the house. My dad was always a really hard worker, and it came to that. But even though I'd say my mum had a really big part in kind of my path into creativity as well, because I think it was a bit of a blessing and a curse. She always encouraged us never to feel like we had to work for someone for the rest of our life.
Really?
It was one of those things. It was she never wanted to see us working for someone.
Wow. From an early age?
From a really early age, I think because she didn't maybe get to travel as much as she wanted to. And my mum, I feel she's my hero. She basically devoted pretty much most of her life and put her career on hold to look after me and my sister.
Yeah.
But to also just to say to us you don't have to... Obviously, there's nothing wrong with working for people.
No, I hear you.
And she kind of put a really heavy work ethic into us and said, anything you do, make sure you work and you work hard. If you're going to do it properly, but also don't feel like you've got to work for someone for the rest of your life, and don't let anybody tell you that that is all you have to do. You are more than capable of working for yourself. And
this was from Mum.
yeah.
That
so
is
she's
brilliant. She's my hero too now.
So I think it's good because she kind of like explained to us like the freedom that comes
with working for yourself. Yes.
Not saying it's necessarily a massively easy path, because obviously when you are self-employed, it's like you're not getting no paid annual leave, or kind of like there's obviously struggles that come with it, but she always ingrained in us that like you're more than capable of
doing it,
doing it, and there's a lot of freedom that comes with it, and she didn't want us to be locked into and kind of felt that we had to rely on people for money. So I feel like it was, like I said, it's been a bit of a blessing and a curse, because it's been ingrained in me from that young, it's kind
age.
of made me quite an ambitious person. But it's something that I've always, I guess, strived for, because it kind of made me into one of those people that I'm more than happy to follow authority, but I'd rather not. I'd rather be my own.
I'd rather
just do it myself. Like, I'd rather just... I think at the end of the day, she raised me and my sister to be like two really strong women that couldn't... And I think I think a lot of black parents probably have those conversations with their kids as well, that not just as a black person, you're capable of getting to where other people are, your white counterparts and male counterparts are, but you're going to have to do 10 times more to get to that point. And I think not just as a black person, but as a black woman, you do have to kind of put 500% more than what other people are kind of putting into it, whether that's staying out of trouble in school or whether that's kind of like striving for extra curricular activities and kind of like doing more outside of school. So I think I've just always been raised to be just a really ambitious person, which is good and bad, because it can be quite draining sometimes, because like you said before, like I don't think there's ever going to be a time where I'm like, right, I'm fully satisfied with where I'm at. I think
it can always get better, right?
There's just always something else to strive for, really.
No, that's brilliant. You know why I say it's great is because I've had conversations, in the studio with people, and most parents will encourage, or let me not say most, but that I know of, they will encourage their children, to go to school, go further education in order to go into employment. Right? Even though they will say like corporate jobs or the bigger jobs, but when you hear about it, most times when people are talking about earning a living, there's job attached to it, right? Even if you say engineering, law, doctor, job, right? Perhaps with doctors you can go into private practice, similar to law, and that sort of thing. But normally the things that are encouraged is go to uni, stability, right? Go to school and do it, because you need to be stable. You need to get yourself a job. You need to get yourself a good job. You need to get yourself a high-paying job, and that sort of thing. So to have a parent that was encouraging you, even instilling that in you, telling you to say you don't want to be stuck with. That is so brilliant.
Yeah,
do you get what I mean?
Because, and I was so like, I had no idea. And to be fair, if it probably, like I said, I'd say maybe like the age of 15. I remember doing my GCSEs and really enjoying graphic design, but I'm thinking to myself, I want to go to uni, but I don't think I'm ready to go straight away. I'm not actually sure what it is that I want to do. And my mum's saying to me like, you've got a really good eye for graphic design. Like, you're a really artistic person.
Really?
I think that kind of set me on the path of thinking to myself, because I think being in design agencies and stuff with my dad, it always did seem like a magical place. Like, I think there's a buzz to kind of like creative agencies, because there's ideas flying about the place. There's just like a real buzz to it, and I'd always loved it. But I think it seemed like something that maybe wasn't something that I could achieve, until my mum was like, well, if that's what you want to do, like you can
go for
kind of do it.
What gave you that doubt? What made you feel that you couldn't achieve it?
I think because I'm the type of person, I have to, in order to kind of get to an end place, I have to like be able to like visualize the steps of me being able to get there.
How's it gonna get there? Okay.
And I think it just seemed at like the age of 15, 16, when you're kind of like doing your exams, there was so much going on in personal life, and it was like, well, I want to get there, but actually like happening. What the hell, like how do you actually make that happen? And I think, to be honest, even though I'm probably a bit wiser, and obviously I am running my own agency, I couldn't tell you like there's steps that's got me there, but I haven't necessarily planned them. I think I've just I've had a passion for something.
Yeah.
I've done what felt right at that time, and I've managed to get to kind of like the place that I'm at now. But
brilliant.
I think
At first you were kind of like, oh, you don't know.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure what it is, but I think it's really weird. Like I kind of took after I finished university. I fell out of love with graphic design and with love with kind of like design. Okay. I think it's just that intenseness of constantly being judged on your creativity and told, actually, no, this can't be, especially with like creative field, to be marked on something so personal as creativity, which is like such like a subjective thing and quite a personal thing.
You can tend to take it personal, isn't it?
Yeah, I found it quite difficult, and I was like, well, actually, I'm not as good at this as I thought I was, so I'm going to kind of take a step back. And honestly, I think for maybe 2 years, I didn't touch any type of design after finishing university. I think it was quite a hard time anyway. I think it's quite a hard time for a lot of people that's not spoken about a lot, that transition from leaving university into becoming an adulthood. Like it's a lot. It's a real big transition.
Right. A lot of people are still transitioning.
It's really
Do you get what I mean? Yeah. I think what happens, people just fall into what they're doing, as oftentimes it's easy to get caught up in something that just gets things going, because you got bills, you got obligations, you have family mode. I have family, 2 kids, a wife, so you go into something, and sometimes it's easy to get stuck into a place where you don't want to be. Do you get what I mean? I count myself lucky that I'm doing this because I love this, and I'm hoping that we'll get to a point to where I can actually do this for a living. But this is my way of getting away from that monotonous sort of way of doing things, because what you say, the transition between university and going into a craft, don't I know how hard that is,
especially if you've, because I think you spend like the first 18-19 years of your life just, it's kind of
education
there for you. I think you've got to be in education now up until is it up until you're 18 now, is it? I think so. I think for the first 18 years of your life, it's kind of set out for you. And then if you do go to university up until you're kind of like 21, it's like, right, okay, well, you've got a path, your path's set out. But then it's kind of like, oh, there is no more there is no more education. I actually just go out into the world and do stuff now. So I mean, I found the transition quite difficult and suffered with my mental health quite a lot at the end of it.
Okay.
So kind of fell out of love with design.
All right.
And actually just went to work in a call centre. I just knew I needed to do something. I moved back with my mum, but I think with like a lot of people, you just go into survival mode. You just need to make some money.
Yeah.
If you do move back with your parents, it's kind of like you've lived for 3 years on your own, and you're like, right, I need to get out of my parents.
Absolutely, because if you stay there, they won't let you go. They'll be like, oh, and then you're reverting back.
So, and I think that's quite a difficult thing as well, to feel like you've kind of made steps forward and then you're actually moving back. You can feel quite a difficult time to kind of feel like quite stagnant, really. So for me, I just knew I needed to work, and like went and worked in a call centre for 3 years. But let me tell you, after those 3 years, I was like, boy, I miss my creativity.
I'm saying.
So it's kind of like I needed that kind of feeling stagnant to be like, right, okay, no, like actually I am a creative person. I need to get back into design somehow and do it, and kind of dipped my I can't say I'm one of those people who necessarily takes the path that they should take. I am one of those people who I'm willing to work hard, but if there's another way for me to do something that I prefer, I'm gonna do it. I think I mentioned it at like the Black owned economy thing, like in my last year of uni as well, like went to go visit a few agencies in London and kind of looked about, and remember speaking to people and being like, so how do you get to like a position of yours? How do you get to this point where you are a junior designer? It's like, well, you can't just rock up to this place. A lot of these places you've got to do like a year's internship where you basically paid less than minimum wage, or sometimes not paid at all for experience, but you're expected to be there. And then you're not
guaranteed.
You're expected to be there full time. And I'm thinking to myself, so I basically work for free to get experience to then be able to get a job. But how are you meant to earn money?
How do I survive?
Whilst doing that. And I thought to myself, well, I know I need to be in creative fields, but I'm definitely not taking that route, because like I need to make money somehow. Like I don't know how I'm meant to survive.
Yes.
So then what I did is I kind of looked for jobs where weren't necessarily my end goal,
Okay.
but would allow me to be within a creative space, basically.
Smart.
So I was literally just, I knew I was good at like admin and stuff, and I just applied for kind of like assistant roles, but within small design agencies. And through kind of like proving myself and kind of going that one step further when it came to, oh, will you print this label off, or will you just kind of speak to this client, rather than just doing those little bits. It was like, while speaking to this client, suggesting things that I believed may help their business from my creative experience and what I'd studied.
Okay.
And kind of like then, I think when you do take that kind of extra little step, if you are in the right place, your management and people around you are going to see that. So I started as an admin within this design agency, but then within 3 years became an account manager within this design agency.
Wow.
And then within another year was managing a team of account managers, even though I just basically started there on minimum wage, just dispatching parcels and stuff. So
you got your foot in.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those things, like, sometimes don't look at it. If someone tells you there's a way to do something, there's going to be another 5 ways to do it. And I think you just have to, if that way is not suitable for you, like for some people that may work for people to do internships, but for me, I thought to myself, well, I might be junior, I might just come out of university, but I'm not working for free for nobody.
Right. After having spent all this time in education just to come and work with you for nothing.
Tripping. So like,
I'm not doing that.
The real life work, like, let me just go see. And do you know what I mean? I think it's just, it was nice that they'd given me that opportunity, and I think being able to, in 3 to 5 years' time, be able to work my way into an agency. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't a massive agency, but it taught me stuff, and it got to a point where I was working alongside the designers in teams and like as an account manager. So I'm learning on the job, and I'm able to take that information, and then it gave me the confidence to be like, oh, actually, now that I've seen how it works from the inside, it's actually possible for me to do this. Like, I can see, it didn't seem as much of an alien concept as what it seemed before, because from before I was just seeing this big shiny agency and the buzzing studio and stuff, whereas when you're inside it and you can see the way that the cogs are working and the different people that are working, it was like, oh right, okay, so this is how I can make it work for myself, sort of thing.
Absolutely. That is so brilliant. Taking us on a journey, which is what, I mean, it leads us perfectly into when you started your own business, right? So what were those steps, or in fact, what was your mindset into thinking, you know what, I'm going to jump out on my own and actually set up my own business?
So I think I'd say it came like quite naturally, and I just feel like I'm quite lucky with the people that I'm around, I think, as well. I had a lot of people who were starting their own businesses and knew that I had design experience and was like, please, can you work on my logo, can you work on leaflets? And also, even though I was working full time, I wanted ways to make additional money. And I said to my partner at the time, and I was like, I need a creative outlet, I need a way to make additional money. And I dabbled in stuff like photography, and we're doing photo shoots for people and directing photo shoots, and thought about, oh, well, maybe I'll print clothing. And I remember like my husband now saying to me, like, but you're a designer, like, there you go. Just make money from your designing. And even though people were still friends and family were like paying me money to do it, I think still in my head I wasn't 100% sure that actually, no, like, you're actually quite good at this.
And what you do, you're good at it. You've seen it growing up. You've studied it formally as well.
Exactly.
So,
and it was kind of like, I think it took people I was very lucky that I had people trusting in me and probably saw my talents before I saw my talents and were willing to kind of like give me that chance. And then after a while, as you kind of are doing more and you start off creating those logos for a small amount of money, but then you start adding onto your services and you think, well, rather than me just doing this one logo, I'm going to offer them an option of logos. And in order for me to offer that various options of logos, then I'm able to charge a bit more for that. And just kind of like upping yourself. And I think it's that case of like challenging yourself that little bit more each time, and kind of being at a point where I think you've just constantly got to challenge yourself and want to learn more. Absolutely. Like, I'm one of those people, like, I'm never like we were saying, never really satisfied. It's like once I feel like I've mastered one thing, it's like, right, okay, like what's the next level to this? How can how can I make this better? Not just for me, but for my client, and what can make. And I think I know it pays off really, which is why I get people returning to me for certain things, and
brilliant.
Why people refer me. And I don't know, I feel like it's really weird, but it did happen very naturally, I would say, because I think even in times when I didn't believe in myself, my work obviously proved to people, oh, actually, no, like, you are good. And I think,
know what you're doing.
I think just at one point you think to yourself, right, okay, no, actually people are trusting in me, like people are actually coming to me for like their business,
serious projects and things like that.
And it was when I think the first lockdown as well probably helped a lot, because even though for a lot of people it was a really difficult time because people were getting furloughed and stuff, I found that was actually a time where people were putting time and investing into the businesses that they didn't have time to do whilst they were working full time. So whilst it may be quieting down for a lot of businesses, I found that it really picked up for me, because a lot of people were really investing into business ideas. So I think that really helped to push the business into a good position as well. And with me being furloughed, it gave me time. I kind of like set myself a task of like, right, every day I'm going to put out a piece of design on my social media. And then from that, I found like, I started working with like my first client from Nigeria, worked with like my first client from Australia, worked with my first client from kind of like America. So I think it's just, I think it just can happen quite naturally. Right. I think if you've got transitioning, if you've got a dream in your head, I think you just have to keep that long-term goal in. And like I said, I'm quite a calculated person. I like to plan my steps. It's like, this is where I'm going, but actually that's not the way it works. Like, I think you just
sometimes
have to
it will throw you off and things like that.
You just have to have that end goal in mind, and as long as you're working towards the end goal and that's what it is that you're achieving for, like things just happen, and you kind of one day you wake up and you're like, oh
what happened?
I'm not quite sure how I got here, but like I did it. So,
No, that's how I work with like an end goal in mind. Always again, this is where I want to, to get to. Everything else will figure itself out. I was actually thinking earlier, I don't think I've had an episode where something hasn't happened to throw me off. Like today, I was like, what is going on here? So now it doesn't even surprise me anymore. Like things happen, but eventually we get to the end product. Do you get what I mean? No, in regards to your business, I was going to ask you, outside earning, what are some of the other motivations that drew you to to set up shop, to be doing it for yourself and that sort of thing?
I think one of the first things again was just seeing like how uncommon it is to see not just black people but black women in positions of power within like large agencies. Which I find really weird, because I feel like our cultures, whether we come from black British cultures, Caribbean cultures, African cultures, they inspire so much of popular culture.
Oh, yes.
But we're never kind of like at the forefront of it, or kind of like really
giving our flowers the way we're supposed to.
It's really weird. Like people take the ideas and run with it, but actually they come from like, I just feel like black culture, not just black culture, but just minorities in general, like gay culture, like so much is taken from it and used in popular culture, and we're never really, like you said, given our flowers for it. So I think that was one of the main things, because I'm looking around and like obviously watching my dad work in design, he let me know that there is people within it, but actually like when people ask me what it is that I do, and I'm like, I'm a graphic designer, they're like, oh, okay, because I'm not I'm not necessarily drawings. But not just that I'm not necessarily a typical. When people think of a brand designer or an agency owner, it's not usually my face that is kind of like pictured. So that was definitely one of the main things. But I think just having a creative outlet, I just need to have somewhere to put ideas.
Okay.
I think having like a creative mind or like a busy mind, it can be really easy to kind of like get overwhelmed and live in your head a lot of the time. And I think kind of like having an agency and somewhere to put those ideas really helps. It's a creative outlet. And think also just kind of, I do get a buzz from helping people.
Yes.
I think one of the things that gets me most giddy is when I have an initial appointment with a potential client and listening to someone speak about something that brings them so much joy.
I wanted
like,
to do this, I wanted to be like this, right?
It's like when somebody speaks about something that they are genuinely passionate about, like their eyes light up and like the body language change, like everything changes. Like I just feel like you see a new side of somebody when they're speaking about something that they're passionate about, that they truly love. And like I love that, because even though they may be passionate about it, they may not know how to kind of like communicate that to the rest of the world. Yeah. So that's another massive thing for me, being able to take that story and actually like translate and
really
share that with people and be like, this is their story and this is why they're doing what they're doing. Because I think, like, I know you were saying, I think design and brand, it can just be seen as like pretty pictures and making things pretty, but I just think there's just so much
more
that goes into behind it. Like it's such a personal thing for someone to actually want to share like their business and brand with people, and to be a part of that, for someone to trust you with their business, like their baby, like it means a lot.
Bring it to life, right?
It's like you're at the starting stages of someone's business, like you watching it and kind of like turning it not just from an idea but actually like bringing it to life, to
reality,
sharing it with people. Like I think the first time I saw like my logo on a physical logo that I'd created on someone's shop front, it's like
on his shop front, you know,
oh my god, it's I like did that. You do, and you like drive past and you're like, wow, like that's come from my brain, and like people are walking past that and they can see that, like there's just something really special that like warms you.
Definitely. No, it sounds very much like you have a heart for what you do, because you know when you were describing about seeing somebody telling you what they want you to bring to, that's me, right? Like I know, like I had a guy that made my website from us, telling him, I bet you he probably was listening thinking to this guy's a bit, you know, because I'm like, this is what I want and this is what I want it to be, and it's like oh, it's not that, but then I probably is putting more money. But I can hear you when you're talking about somebody who's passionate about something, them describing, because it's like you as a creative owner, we get so passionate about what we're doing. So somebody that's going to bring that to life, like that's, you know, it's great. Do you get what I mean? I was going to ask you as well, like, what are some of the expertise? I know, like, expertise and experience you've kind of passed on to small businesses and that sort of thing. So I'm sure you have people coming to you wanting certain things and they don't have the knowledge. Sometimes they don't know what they want, whereas you are the expert and you know. So what is some of that you've imparted?
I'd say one of the most common things that I end up communicating to people is, it seems really backwards when you say to someone, I know this is for your business and your brand, but when building this brand, like, you're not the centre of attention for this. Like,
Ooh,
you
don't
can.
tell me that. What? What are you talking about? You can't say that.
Honestly,
no, I'm kidding, but I hear you.
Like,
I hear you. Yeah.
It seems really backwards to be like, listen, you're not the main character in this. Obviously, when we talk about personal brands and stuff, obviously, like, in that sense, obviously you are at. But I think when you're creating and when you're coming out with new products, when you're coming out with deciding how to present yourself, you trying to attract other people, like the people that you're trying to attract need to be at the forefront of your mind. Like, I've worked with clients before and they're like, well, the logo's really nice, but blue's my least favourite colour, so I don't want that in the logo.
It doesn't have to be appealing to you. You need to get this thing to appeal to the people you want to come to.
It's like, well, you might not like the colour blue, but actually the people who are going to spend thousands on this product, they're actually going to like be attracted to that colour. And like, there's going to be certain things that's going to communicate to certain people, you know? Like, there's certain things of like design where you've got to think to yourself, right, okay, this may not be, and don't get me wrong, I think you still have to have a connection. Like, if there's something that obviously just does not click with you, like we were talking about values before, if there's certain, like, I don't know, a phrase like a strap line that you just goes completely against your values, obviously don't use it But I think when it comes to smaller things such as like colours and like where you're presenting yourself, you've got to think, you may not like using LinkedIn, but is that where the people who are gonna
that you're looking for
are? Because if so, then you're gonna have to invest time into that. So I think it's taking like that personal side out of things. But yeah, another thing is just like we were saying, like with investment, like there's no point spending loads of money on one section if you're just gonna half-ass it with like the rest of it. I think sometimes branding can be at one of the last things that people think about. They kind of like do everything, but actually the bit that's going to be facing the customers and that's going to attract the customers, they think to themselves, oh, I'll just half-ass that and I'll just kind of do that myself. Yeah, I just need a logo to stick on my display picture. And it's like, I think if you only wanting to kind of like create a side hustle and it's something that actually you don't see working for you long term, it is just something to keep you going for now, then yeah, that's fine. Maybe this logo that you've created on Canva is gonna be suitable for that.
Just like Canva.
Listen, I do love a bit of Canva, but there's a time and a place.
I hear you.
At the same time, if you are wanting to kind of, it just makes sense just to invest long term. Like just like for me personally, if a business was to come to me and they were just like, personally, I want them to make a brand. I want this brand to make like $1 million within the first 5 years so that I can sell that brand on. If they were to tell me that they didn't have at least, I don't know, 5-10K to invest in towards their brand at first, I would say you're not ready to start building that brand. You need to make sure you've got at least some funding
to put towards
it. Like you can
like, what's your budget, right?
Like
you need a budget,
have some sort of, I think it goes back to this whole sort of thing, like we see people kind of coming up on TikTok and becoming stars, and people coming up on social media and online, and we think, but they just released this one song and they did this and now they're like a multimillionaire. But it's like, you haven't seen
the background work,
stuff that has gone on behind that and how much money they've invested into employing professionals, into getting to them to go there, whether that's PR, whether that's kind of like a marketing team. Like you think it's just come from that, but the amount of time and money and sweat and tears that they've invested into that, in the background, consistency is such a big thing. Like people think that I think is some of the biggest. Like, for instance, there's quite a few, like, big brand designers that I follow that I just look at their work and I think, oh, my God. That is brilliant. That is, like, genius, this concept. And you think to yourself, and you look at them and they're there with, like, the 500,000 followers. And you think to yourself, but how have they got to this point? And you start scrolling through the feed and you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, they've been doing this a long time. Like, they've literally been doing this before I was even on Instagram. Like, it's not that they've gained this success just overnight. Like, they've put
takes
graft
and
to get there.
In the background, it's the work that you don't see in the background. The perfect example is, like, Drake. Right, so Drake has got producers. He's got people that are constantly working on beats. They send this guy beats on a daily basis. So one of the guys he works with, they literally custom built a studio, right, that would allow them to hear like certain beats. The way they set it up is just to allow them to create. It's like one of the most creative things I've ever seen. But what he was saying is that they spend monotonous days. He goes, not every day is like upbeat, high day. There'll be some boring days. He goes, there's some days where they're just working on notes. There's some days where they're only working on beats. There's some days where they're just drafting things. But these guys, the amount of work that they do in the background before they even get to creating an album, I was like, oh, so that's his secret weapon. And then if you see the streams that Drake has, and you'll be like, you hear Drake's song, you're like, oh my God, or automatically it resonates with you. The reason for that is there's a science behind it. These guys are working through the year. Another person is like, Rick Ross.
Yeah,
He said
yeah.
he listens to over 1,000 beats. He goes, if you can't do that, then you can't be like me.
Yeah.
He will sit in the studio just listening to strings.
Yeah,
He said he
yeah.
will listen to about 1,000 before he picks which ones will go. I was like, what? Sit for hours listening to melodies. I don't know if I could do that. But then that's what he does, and that's what sets him apart from everyone else.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
aside from just seeing what people are doing and thinking it's great, it's in your spare time when you're not presenting.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the work you're putting in
Yeah.
the background when no one's looking?
Yeah, it's
You
so
know,
true. And I
that's
think
the important
JME
work.
is one of those people as well. Like I remember watching a interview with him. Like all he does is just every day, all day. He just makes beats. Just that's what
Wow.
he does.
And that's what he loves to do.
Yeah,
He's always
it's just
listening to
'cause he
different
just
ones.
loves
It's
it. He
like,
just
wow.
makes beats, and that's
Yeah.
just what he does. And like
Yeah.
people are like, "Hey, he's massive," but it's just like, yeah. I just think there's just so much that goes on in the background. I think you've got to be a special type of person. You've got to have a true passion for it, and not only have you got to be passionate about it, but you've got to have a good team of people around you. Like I think it's possible to do things on your own. And still achieve it, but I think a lot of the time we're not seeing the teams of people that a lot of these successful people have around you. And that's not just paid people, that's just support, whether that's family, friends,
Sending them things.
Yeah, it's just having like a good support system in place. And I think that's where, like, I'm definitely not where I want to be, but I think one thing I can constitute to like the successes that I've had so far is just having just
People looking out
people
for you
around me
and-
that are not going to always say things that I want to hear either. Like sometimes they're going to break it down to me and be like, well, what are you doing? Like, no, this is not
Why
how
are
we
you
do
doing that?
things.
And you need that, you know. At least like some of the things that you said earlier about the logos and not cheaping out. That is such needed information. You know, when you say it's like, look, if you're going to do this seriously, you need
Do it
this amount
properly.
of budget.
Yeah,
it's something that a lot of people won't want to hear, but it's something that you need to hear.
Yeah,
because you're not going to get to certain places if you don't do it properly.
There's no point. You've got to just, if you're going to do it. And I think that's another thing that my mum taught me. Like, she was very much, listen, Hannah, if you're going to do something, do it properly or don't do it at all. Because really and truly, if you're only doing it by halves, or you're giving it 15%, you're just making yourself look, you're not presenting yourself in the best light. And I think that's also something that's really stuck with me. Like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it properly.
Now, I hear you. What I was going to ask you as well, you know, like in terms of, could you talk us through a logo journey, right? Like, so for example, you have a client comes through, they've got a concept of a logo. How do you work through that to actually get them to the end product? I know it's probably like there's a lengthier version of that answer, but if you could shorten it for us, because I know sometimes as a person, we were talking earlier, where you will have an idea of what you think something is, right? So come to you, think, I wanted to have these colors and that sort of thing. How do you handle that yourself as a creative, and how do you get them from concept, which is to the end product?
I think it can really vary, because I will have people who come to me who have a plan in their mind already, and have an idea of what it is that they want. But then there is people who are just like, I know I need to do something, but actually I have no idea
what I want
where
to
the
do.
hell that I'm going to start. Even though they can be really different, I do try to start at the same place. So I think it just starts with discovery. It's just sitting down with that person or that team and trying to figure out what the goal is, not the goal for the. And when I say the goal, it's like one thing that we look at when it comes to strategy is, what are your goals for the next year? What are your goals for the next 3 years? What are your goals for the next 7 to 10 years? Because I think you have to look at the bigger picture. It's not just about that one piece of design, because any brand that you put in place, it's got to grow with your business. Like, it's about the longevity. So it usually starts with someone coming to me and saying, right, I need a piece of design. I need to look into my branding. Then you'll kind of like go through discovering, onboarding. So it's like I said, having a discussion with them, trying to figure out what their business goals are for the next few years, getting to know about their product, why it is that they're building this product or this service, what it is that they aim to kind of get from it. And once you've got kind of like that, I think I say to clients, sometimes it can kind of feel like a bit like I'm interviewing them a bit, because
it should.
you need to know.
Also, you gotta know
exactly. You've got to dig and get like corner of it. And I like to do that face to face as well with people, because I think it gives them a chance. Because sometimes, even though I will give them an outline of the sort of things we're going to discuss in a meeting like that, it may not be anything that they've thought of before they've come to me and approached it, whether that's like the people that they want to target, why it is that they're building this business, that sort of thing. But once I've got that information, then it's a case of going away and building an actual strategy. And that strategy is a plan of like, how are we going to build this brand and how are we going to reach people with this brand, basically.
Brilliant.
And I think it's like what we said before, like people think that it's just me going away and creating a design, when actually...
Listen, I need you to go draw this for me so I can put it on my storefront.
When actually I'd say like the first 3 or 4 weeks is just research and market research.
3 to 4 weeks.
Digging into what it is, like business goals, before I've even put pen to paper, or even before I've briefed a designer on what actually needs to be.
Oh, you need a budget for that. 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, sometimes it can be less, but like I'd like to say, like, you've got to, I'm not, you can say to me, yes, I want a bird and a tree in this logo, but
do it in a week, please.
But what is this going to do? And I think you'll find...
Yeah.
Sometimes I do get people saying to me, I just need a logo. And again, it's about finding that target audience. And I can end up saying to people, do you know what? Maybe I'm just not the best designer for this job, because I'm not just going to create a logo for you that you can go away with. Like I'm creating a strategy and a full rounded kind of project, because I feel like I'm not doing myself justice and I'm not doing you justice as a business to just create a logo and send you off with that. I think there is a time and a place for that, and there is specific logo designers who are there to create logos. I work with people like that. Do you know what I mean? These are the people that I'm working with to create design work to help me on the side of my business. But in terms of like the services that I'm offering, like I want to be able to offer like a full rounded like strategy and kind of like building a full brand, not just the pretty picture that kind of comes with it, right? So, and within this, it's kind of like once you do start designing, then you've got to go through a refinement stage. So I might present ideas, but once we've got to this idea, then it's kind of looking at this idea and thinking, right, well, how can we make this as perfect as possible? And it's like refining the ideas, which then can take another couple of weeks to complete. And then once you've got the refined ideas and the approved ideas, then it's putting together guidelines for this business to go away with, so that when it does come to creating the rest of the brand, if it's not me working on their website or me working on kind of like their leaflet design and stuff, at least they've got like a Bible there and something to go by to be able to make sure that anything they create for this brand going forward, it's all consistent with like what we've created from this starting point, really. So it can really vary. Like I said, there's a lot that goes into it. It can really vary from client to client, but the main thing is just like finding. For me, I look at my job as problem solving.
There you go.
Looking at like what the issue is. I'm not just creating something beautiful, but I'm basically finding out what your issue is, figuring out how to solve that issue through creative design and giving you the solution basically to take away.
I think it's also direction setting, right? I think I'm now realizing you do more than just create logos. I think sometimes it's also it helps the people have introspection to be like, do you know what, if it's going to be all this, do I even really want to be doing it, right? It gives them the opportunity to really think about, do I even want to be doing this? 'Cause if they're serious about what they're doing, they'll know, okay, this is going to take a lot, and yes, I'm willing to go this route, I'm willing to invest, or maybe I need to take a bit of time, or maybe I need to, take a step back and rethink this and come back. Do you get what I mean? So it's like, you're doing God's work. You're doing therapy for people. Business therapy for people, because I feel like that can be such a huge wake-up call. To be honest with you, I can just imagine a consultation. It can either be a big wake-up call in a good way, because I'm like, okay, this is what's needed. Okay, cool. We're going to go ahead. Or, wow, if this is what's needed, do I even want to be doing this?
And sometimes there's two sides of it. Sometimes you get people who are like, right, okay, I completely understand where you're coming from, but this is what I've got in my mind. This is what I want to do. And in that point, it's kind of like, right, okay, so this is what they want to do. I've now got to, this is a problem that I've got to solve. And get round, because it's like, these are the people they're wanting to appeal to, but this is the idea they've got in mind. How can I tailor this idea to actually appeal to these people? And then on the other side, then you do get people who are like, oh, actually, I didn't think about that. Like, I think I might need a few months to kind of like think about what it is. Does this business idea actually work?
Let me come back to it. I was gonna say, like, how do you deal with pushback? Or in fact, no, rather what I wanted is like an example, or maybe a challenging pushback that you might have gotten from a client, whether it's in the beginning or mid project and that kind of thing. And how do you handle that, or how did you handle that?
Like I said, I think it's one of those things, like, you have to be kind of really professional in the way you're coming across. At the end of the day, someone is paying you for a service.
Yes.
So I think you've got to be honest with these people. But at the end of the day, if they're paying you for a specific thing, like, you've got to provide them with that
what they're paying
thing.
for. Yes.
Like, for instance, I'm working on kind of like some like digital designs for a client at the moment, and for them, they are all about, like, they want to carve out, so they're in kind of like natural beauty business, and they want to show on their website that basically they know what it is that they're talking about. They're not just selling a product, but they want people to know, like, this is our life, like, we've dedicated our life to create this, which is completely fine, but the way that they translate that is to completely cover their website in just chunks and chunks of copy and wording, and you kind of try to explain to them there's other ways that you can show people that you know what it is that you're talking about without just giving them a blanket of copy. Like, you don't need to put all this wording in front of people, because I can guarantee people are not going to get halfway through this page before clicking off the website. Like, there's other things that you can kind of like do. So we kind of come to a compromise, and even though we've got some of that information in there, I've also encouraged them to use more imagery and to actually invest in a professional photographer, so that they actually have some imagery to kind of break up these walls of text that are kind of
I'm not reading all that. I've noticed, with social media now, attention span is so short. Even long articles. I'm not going to read a whole long article.
No.
If it doesn't have illustrations, I'm just going to go to the next thing. I'll watch a video. But if it's a long article, there's no way. So if you're talking about text and
walls and there's ways that you can do it. It's like, you can have all the text on there, but just like break it up. Like, have it in different places. It's not just like paragraphs, because I think I read somewhere, like, you literally have like I think you have less than a second to grab someone's attention.
Exactly.
Especially in the world of TikTok, like where you're like at the moment, to limit like my viewing on like social media, I limit like how long I can spend on each app, so that I'm not like stuck on it. So for me personally, if I know I've only got an hour on TikTok for that day,
then
listen, it's cutthroat.
Right.
if I hear the beat of a song I don't like I ain't got time for that. Like,
you make one misstep.
There's none of that. It's like, I might not even like the look of your face, and like, it's just, it's just certain things. Like, we live in a really fast-paced world, but when it comes to it, I think it's one of those things. It's just knowing that someone is coming to you for a service, and you've got to be honest with them, but at the same time, if they're adamant on something, you've got to find a way to make it work. Again, I said, it's that problem solving. You've got to find a way to incorporate what it is that they need, but use your professional expertise to make it work. No,
I hear you. I was going to ask you as well, what are some of the challenges you've faced so far up to this point, especially in you setting up shop and that sort of thing, setting up business? Or can you think of any? Or has it been smooth sailing?
No, definitely have been smooth sailing.
No challenges here.
It definitely have been
Hannah's giving the secrets, guys.
No,
you should have known nothing but challenges.
One of the hardest things, I think, is like letting go of some of the freedom of like your business. Like I can be quite... I like to have control of things, and you have to learn when you're running a business. Like, there's certain things you can't, and there's certain things you can't be in control of. Like, for instance, when COVID came, nobody knew that was going to happen. You could have set up a business, set up a shop, and then next week we've gone into lockdown. Like, there's certain things that you just don't have control of, really. So I think one of the hardest things for me was learning to kind of like not just give up control, but to like delegate stuff.
Okay.
Like, I remember starting the business and not really knowing what I was doing with accounts, and kind of like not really doing cash flow forecasts or anything.
Okay.
And then a year into running a limited business, you're like, company's house are coming for you talking about, oh, you owe in accounts, and it's kind of like, oh, right, okay, so this is something I was meant to actually do, like, from the beginning, and having to kind of like go out of my way and look for an accountant to actually look for that side of my business, because I actually thinking to myself, I can do it all myself. But really and truly, I had to invest some money into getting an accountant so that they could look after that sort of thing. Wow. I think the other side of that is when you're wanting to expand your business. Like, over the past couple of years, I've realised, like, right, if I want to do this full time,
to scale, in
order to scale, I'm actually going to have to give the reins up on certain things.
You have to.
There's certain things that I absolutely love about business, and I absolutely love like I said, the conceptual thinking and building strategies, and I love designing, but if it comes to it, I'd rather deal with my clients face to face and help them build a strategy.
There you go.
And find someone who would prefer, like we were saying before, there's different types of designers. There is logo designers out there who just want to be a logo designer. So these are the type of people that I'm working with. So I can build a strategy with a client, but actually outsource, go to a logo designer and say, this is the strategy I've got in place. I need the logo to look like this, and be able to hand that work off to somebody else. And say, like, outsource that work to other people. So I think it's a really difficult part of business, but I think if that is your goal to expand, you've got to do it. Like, you've got to invest that money. And another side of things, which I found really useful outsourcing, was once you get me in front of a person, then like, I'm completely fine. But sales and outsourcing, that is not a bit of me at all. Like,
sell it. Listen, I don't mind selling.
Oh God, it's like once I struggle to kind of like go out there and like
speak to people,
sell myself to people. Especially
you have to. You're a businesswoman, I know. It comes with the territory. It's a big part of it.
In my head, I was like, well, do you know what it is? If I want to find corporate clients and I need to sell myself to these people, then I'm going to invest money into someone who can actually do that. And that doesn't come cheap, kind of working with business development agencies. But I spent a year and said to myself, well, do you know what? I'm going to invest this money into a business development agency so that they can find me the clients and I can do this side of things.
There you go.
It pays off. But that's definitely been one of the hardest things, like handing over the reins and delegating to other people, especially as I get ready to go on maternity leave, because for like 9 months basically I'm putting my business into
somebody else's
other people's hands, into like an assistant's hands, into a designer's hands, and it's kind of a bit like, oh my God.
Right? Because if you didn't do that though, Hannah, it's like your whole business would have to halt. Because you're not there. You know, if when you're self-employed, you're a contractor, whatever it is, you need to put those systems in place for the sake of your business. Right? Because if you don't do that, it's not just the scaling thing. The scaling part is also another very, very important part, because there is no scaling if you don't have systems in place, which is why we were saying the mundane work that people don't think of. These are the things that you do. And okay, how do we do this? Okay, this is a procedure. You begin to write it down. You begin to even make it easier so that, okay, if somebody else was to come and do this, how do I hand over the reins without it being so complicated that they don't understand what's going on? And sometimes it might come at a point where it's costing you more than it seems like it's worth, but in the long run, the investment will be worthwhile your business. Again, this is something that I picked up from the summit, you know, the Black Economy Summit, where I think it's the lady again with the beauty brand who said, start early involving people and delegating work in your, and she was speaking so passionately. Listen, She needs to come into this.
Yeah,
This is all right.
because she actually did such a good talk.
I was going to say, there were a couple of people that just really resonated with me. Yourself, Sanchez, and her. Oh, and the other guy, I've forgotten his name. He does like
Emmanuel.
finance from London. I think even True Pop, to be fair, like all the speakers
It was
really
good,
resonated with me. So I remember parts of it and I was like, yeah, this is such important information. Even the information that you were giving, hearing it from a different side. And I'm so thankful that you've come on the podcast, enlightened us, told us a whole different side to things. Today I'm being educated. I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even realize the importance of that, having a budget and seeing how your brand and your logo can direct your business and message it can send is everything. Because if it sends the wrong message, then you might as well not have a business to begin with. Do you get what I mean?
Because people, it's one of those things with brand as well, I think. Even if you do not invest time and money into it, it's best for you to direct it, because from the time you make yourself available and people see you, they've already started building that brand for you. They've already decided what your values are. So it's just best from the beginning to kind of like direct that, because people are talking. I think it was maybe Jeff Bezos, I think. He said it's kind of like your brand is like what people are saying when your brand is basically what people are saying about you when you're not in the room. It's like
there you go. Yes,
it's basically
it
like
speaks for itself.
It's like that's what it is. But no, like it's been a pleasure. Like I'm so glad. Like,
absolutely. It was a great talk. I'm like, we need to do part 2 or part 3 or something when you've got something else coming on, or you just want to come through for us to chat. As I say, next year I've got plans. I actually want to do more and more chats as well, more deliberate, more purposeful, anything meaningful to put out. This is a place, obviously, we can sit down and, do quality work. Any conversation that I'm going to have, for me, it has to be something that's giving value. So anything that gives value in any way, then come. Let's sit down. Let's have that chat. Of course, in a comfortable environment where you're relaxed, you feel comfortable, that sort of thing. But at the same time, we're definitely, giving something back to the viewers, to community, and that sort of thing. But so proud of everything that you're doing with your business.
Oh, thank you.
Wish you the best.
For having me on, honestly.
Right. You're most welcome, man.
It's been great. Yeah. It's been really nice, like, honestly, to talk about something that, like,
you're passionate about.
I'm passionate about. And I think sometimes as well, like, when you're immersed in something, you actually don't realise the value that you are able to give people. So thank you for giving me a platform.
No, you're most welcome. And as I said, you're welcome here anytime. And I appreciate you bringing us the value and bringing us the knowledge. What I was going to ask you as well, is there anything you've got like coming up, going on at the moment that you'd like to tell the listeners or the viewers about?
No, I can't say there's anything specific. Okay. Just at the moment, like, I'm just always open to working with like new people. Whatever the background is. And I think even if it's just not one of those things where you are ready to invest in your brand yet, like, please reach out, because like I love talking about this stuff. Like I was saying, like I wouldn't be like at where I am with my business now if it wasn't just from speaking to people and like getting advice from people who've run their businesses previously. So if you want to talk about branding, like get in touch.
There you go. She'll let you know if it's a wrap, guys. Where can they find you?
So I can be found on LinkedIn. So Hannah Revans. I also have a company page on LinkedIn, which is XiXi Creative. That's XiXi Creative. And also on Instagram as well, XiXi Creative Design.
Okay.
You can find me.
Brilliant. Hannah, once again, thank you so much
thank you
for coming through. Guys, make sure you like, follow, subscribe. It helps us out here at the podcast. It's been your boy, Isaac Speaks with Hannah. Until next time, catch you later. Cheers.
Bye.